Report.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
And you're listening to the Krypton Report.
And you're listening to Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's the Krypton Report!
The All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Supergirl!
Hey, welcome to the Krypton Report. It's Tyler. I'm just setting you guys up here for a great interview I got. I was able to talk with Morgan and Jim from the Superman Museum, which is a place that I love, and I've been to only once. We did call them in, so the audio is a little off, so we ask you to be patient and just enjoy. It was a great time, great chats, and hopefully we'll have more to come. Jim has a vast knowledge of Superman. The interview, of course, is edited for time. I tried to keep it short, and, of course, we went off on tangents. So I hope you guys enjoy and you like it, and send us your feedback. And if you haven't, go to supermanstuff.com and buy something to help support the museum since Celebration was canceled this year. All right, now to the interview.
Hi, I'm Morgan Siebert. I run the Super Museum with my father, Jim.
Jim Hadrick, founder of the Super Museum and Gift Store.
And my husband, Adam Siebert. He's not here right now, but our family runs the Super Museum. Sitting here with my dad.
Okay.
And,
hello, sir.
Hello.
Morgan and Jim from the Super Museum. Well, I was talking to Sam Rizzo this afternoon, and he gets a lot of that Superboy artwork done by that guy named John. His last name never looks like what it would be pronounced as. It starts with an F, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce that. And he said it was pronounced Fint, like Kent, but you would look at it and never think it was pronounced that way.
Yeah, Sam's another guy that him and I have been talking. We're going to get together and try to do an episode. We just kind of hit and miss each other.
Sam's a great guy. I enjoy a phone call with Sam every once in a while. Yeah, we talk pretty often. I
will let him know. I'll be like, hey, guess who I got to talk with, Sam? But,
yeah.
Every year on the podcast, we always talk about Superman Celebration. I have yet to get to go. Last year, my wife was in school, so we couldn't go. And then this year, we actually were planning to come. We had everything set up to come. And then 2 years ago, I couldn't get out of work. They just had me working so much because we were down that I worked. I think that week I worked straight, like through almost 2 weeks straight.
For the weekend of this, or the week of the celebration, I usually work about 85 hours that week.
I couldn't.
And it's crazy. During the celebration, I work from 6 a.m. till sometimes 2 a.m. Just answering questions, and you only get to see people once a year, so it's a lot of updating each other what's been going on in everybody's lives and what everybody's watching or reading, or what everyone's little niche is with the Superman collecting. I like to talk to the collectors.
And what's interesting is one of the people who always is posting on the collecting site, and Tim Gardner. Yep. I actually was going to get to meet him a few weeks back. I was going to meet him up in Cleveland. I was going to the Cleveland convention, the Wizard Con, because I was going to go meet Tyler Hoechlin, and I was going to meet Tim. And then, of course, that was right as things were starting to crack, and my wife didn't feel comfortable with us going up there.
It's funny because my husband was starting to warn me about all of this. The first of the year, and I was like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. And then, he knew, months ahead of time.
And I mean, that is, it's been something crazy. I was hoping that, I kind of expected kind of the worst for March and into April. I was hoping that by May, June, we'd start to get back to normal, but it doesn't.
For us, it's like we have an off season that lasts from November until the second week of March, And we just kind of, try to stay frugal, try to not go anywhere, try to, just pay the bills and keep things going. And then we pick up during spring break, and then we have like really good summers. And the Superman celebration is something we need every year to kind of jumpstart everything for the summer. Because most of the people that come to the museum are, traveling through town. A lot of them are heading, they're like snowbirds heading down from up north down to Florida. And this is one of their favorite spots. People talk about they've come with their family. And, we've been open for 28 years now. And it's neat that people that say, I came here as a kid and now I'm bringing my kids.
That's 28 years in Metropolis.
Yeah.
We had a mobile museum for 15 years before we came here, and we traveled all over the U.S. And so I got 45 years in the Superman museum business.
Yeah. My dad's been collecting for 55 years now.
Since 1959.
I've been to the museum. I have.
Yeah.
My wife brought me down for my birthday as a surprise, and she wanted, to do it as like a surprise because, and us to get to go and experience it without the craziness of the celebration. So I've got to go, and I love it. And my kids want to go because they see mommy and daddy in front of the big statue, and my son, he wants his photo now. So we are planning, because I really want to promote Fall Back to Metropolis. Because a couple of my friends, we were all going to try to go to Celebration, or just a road trip to the museum. And now we're kind of gearing towards the Fall Back as our time to go.
What's really strange is like my dad's been in this so long that back in the 60s and 70s, there was, the Superman clubs, and people that were pen pals, writing each other letters and sending each other gum cards and stuff like that. So now to see where it's taken off to that, on the internet, you really kind of get to know everybody through social media. It's just a different world. Because I do remember people would send binders of pictures when they'd go to a convention. People print out all their pictures from the convention and send them to friends, Look who I got to meet.
See, and one thing that I will say about the Superman celebration and the museum is you do get a sense of community among people. Like, because I'm in some of the same groups as the collectors and you and other people, like we mentioned, like Sam and stuff. It's like, you do get a sense of community that spawns from the museum.
Because as the years go, it becomes tighter and tighter, our community, and people that, I met 5 years ago at the celebration are now some of my best friends. And, because
we got people that have been coming to the Superman celebration for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
See, and that's all.
Like the Rinaldis who do the Superman Jeopardy. They've been coming for a long time.
Yeah, he came up to me one day and said, we would like to do a thing called Superman Jeopardy. And we sat down and we talked about it a little bit. And that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet it feels like just yesterday because.
Yeah, we coming here from California. I had a mobile museum for 15 years and traveled all over promoting the Superman films. So it's Christopher Reeve and promoting Superman and anything that Superman was affiliated with, the 50th anniversary and all the things that go along with the celebration. In as much as when you come to the museum, there's a Superman collector that's a little nuts.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear your story, Jim. Like, what got you into Superman collecting? Why Superman? Like, just however you want to take it, as long as you want it, short as you want to. Just, because like for me, I joke and I say I was born a Superman fan just because as far back as I can remember, I like the character. My mom's got pictures of
watching George Reeves on TV. Basically the early '60s. George died in 1959, so and they didn't go into syndication until the early 60s, and they didn't put it on the air for a while because of the whole thing about, Superman kills himself and
Mm-hmm.
the whole suicide thing and what was it? And, there was more interest coming in on, well, what really happened, that kind of a thing. So I've been involved in over 30 books, 25, 30 books on what happened with George Reeves and all of that and all the things that went on. One of the most haunted houses in Benedict Canyon and Beverly Hills, and I've made friends with Noel Neal and Phyllis Coates, both Lois Lanes, Jack Larson, Inspector Henderson, the guys who played Inspector Henderson, Robert Payne, and then Kirk Allen called me up for 15 years, every day for 15 years. And he traveled with my museum, and traveling with the museum, he signed autographs and became a part of it. And we did that whole tour for 15 years. So, I mean, this is something that's always had longevity. I was basically able to do whatever I wanted to do with the museum. I mean, I got requested all the time in shopping malls and television shows and Geraldo and America's Most Wanted, and done all the TV shows. And so anytime we got involved with something like that, I tried to make it interesting and different so that every time they saw a news segment on myself and George Reeves and collecting Superman and so forth, that they got a different piece of it rather than saying the same thing over and over again. And the character had enough history for where we could get away with doing that. There's so much material on Superman and so much material on the guys who portrayed Superman and all the bad luck stories and the things that go along with that make for a quite interesting story. And so we stayed with that for many, many, many years. And one year, Bob Westerfield, who was the guy who made Metropolis Home of Superman, he was a professional football player. He was on the Minnesota Vikings. And he asked me to come here, and it took me 8 years to finally get here. And he finally talked me.
What year was that, Dad?
Well, that was 93.
That we moved
But he
here.
was working. Well,
So you planned that before I was born?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. As far as Superman goes, yeah, we were right on top of it. And of course, 2 weeks before we got here, after 3 years of planning, 5 55-foot semi truck to load and get here, get all the material and so forth here. And Bob died 2 weeks before I got here.
Oh, wow.
So it was tough on me because, I'm from L.A. and these small towns are it's a whole different way of life. So I had to adapt to that. I had to learn. I had spent all of my money because we were needed in merchandise and inventory and all the things that we had talked about. And it just made it very, very difficult. So for the first 5 years of being here, we really had a tough time just surviving the weekend. I had to learn what it was like to be a squirrel.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. Just you talk about, the mobile museum.
You're talking about, I've had in my possession several George Reeves costumes that George wore as Superman and Christopher Reeve costumes. My contract with the Salkinds and the Superman films and Warner Brothers was every time I did a show, part of my contract was a free costume.
Wow.
That worked out real well because I don't know if you know it or not, but the last Christopher Reeve costume just sold for $250,000.
Yes, I do know. I saw that.
The costume just sold for what was it, $300,000?
Well, what costume? Sorry, didn't hear you.
Well,
the Christopher Reeve cape sold for over $300,000.
Yeah, Christopher Reeve's cape alone sold for $200,000. So then, once I loosened up a little bit and got to know the territory and the terrain. Remember, I'm from California, so I'm a wheeler dealer. Trader Jim, guy that knew how to get all this stuff and was very good at acquisition. And it was one of those things where if I wanted it bad enough, I'd figure out a way to get it, whether I had to trade or something they already had. I don't need, a half dozen costumes
Yeah.
of Cooper Reeves. So, but it doesn't mean I have to have one for the museum. And then when you're talking one, you're talking about which one? Brown and gray, or the color costume,
or Mr. Kryptonite costume.
Yeah, and
I find the brown and gray to be just the most interesting because it's one that you don't think about.
Yeah, that just sold. For almost $300,000.
Wow.
And so when you're talking about this stuff in reference, I mean, it's the most successful auction piece, wardrobe, television piece of memorabilia known to exist.
What's crazy is to watch the changes, because George was the Superman of my dad's generation, and then guys a little bit older than me, and between me and my dad's age, it's Christopher Reeve. And now those Christopher Reeve pieces are really going for a lot of money because the people that were fans as kids are now older, and they're getting
it's
into
just like when growing up here in Metropolis. I've had several. I collect antique cars too, and you put the Model T out there, and it was popular for a while, but then it died down. It wasn't the popularity was gone. It was like no big deal. Now I put a 54 Chevy out in front, and it gets more attention because there's more people that are alive that remember those being a farm car.
Mm-hmm.
So they get more attention. And you don't understand it because you look at the significance and value, you look at the significance in popularity and so on, and all the history with it. And you learn a lot about how that works. And it works in droves. It doesn't just work on one person. I mean, it works in droves. I have, during the course of a day, if I have the Chevy out there, that gets as many pictures as a 15-foot Superman statue.
Yeah. We park a 54 Chevy in front of the museum, and we have you've probably seen it in our pictures.
We got magnetic signs that say Daily Planet on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something right out of the 50s TV show.
People really enjoy that. We like to have a lot of photo opportunities. Speaking of which, we have, a 12-foot tall Doomsday statue inside the museum. That, from the outside, people don't know we have that in there, but we have that. And, we've had John Bogdanoff come in the museum and take his picture with it.
That is what my son was really excited to see.
Amongst the artists and amongst the famous collectors and a lot of the writers and the celebrities that were involved in one way or another in Superman, whether it be Superboy or Lois and Clark. Dean Cain's been here like 3 times, and on and on and on and on. There's always a headline, and we try to theme the celebration here at the museum. We try to theme it out so that we
try to figure out who the guests are, and then we try to rotate some of the stuff in the museum. And that gets kind of tricky because sometimes they don't announce the guests very early. Mm-hmm. And so we scramble at the last minute once we find out who the guests are.
And don't forget, I've got 150,000 Superman-related items.
What I find fascinating is what you just said about rotating things in and out.
This is a train load. And I'm not exaggerating one bit. I mean, anybody that's been here will tell you it's amazing. And whenever they use that word, it tells me I'm doing the right thing.
It is amazing. So let me ask you this, because you just said that rotating in and out. Is there a lot of items that you have that aren't in the museum on display currently?
I mean, I was talking to Sam Rizzo tonight, and I was talking about how when Man of Steel came out, we didn't really have room for, another movie worth of stuff. And then Batman versus Superman came out really quickly. So we had to downsize our Superboy section, sadly. But with Superman or Superboy, the series from the late 80s, we have a lot of costume pieces and prop pieces and items that we can't display. And then we have lots of photographs we can't display. A dream of mine.
There's not enough room.
Yeah.
No matter how much room I get, I can fill it.
Yeah. We would really need like a giant warehouse type building to display everything.
But it works out okay. We rotate things for collectors, and we just added another room, one of the storage room in the back, and that's now huge and a lot of stuff on display there. And now we're doing the upstairs and redoing the upstairs, and the upstairs will have just as much space as the downstairs. And it's a big building. It's 7,500 square feet downstairs alone.
Once we get we're doing updates to the building, new electrical, and then we're tearing out ceilings upstairs and doing all new lighting, and we have to replace windows and air conditioners and all that sort of stuff. Once we get all of that done, we're going to use the upstairs as a second level. We have to repair our elevator, and we have a lot of work to get done. But for now, we're using the upstairs room that we've been working on as an event space. So our idea would be to do movie nights, invite people that want to do birthday parties, tabletop games, different stuff, to be able to use that space.
And it's all Superman themed.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then you go downstairs and you can go through the museum. You can come back upstairs. I know Tim Gardner is going to be coming in June to do a live auction, because we normally do an auction during the Superman celebration. My dad's done an auction for how many years? 20 years? 25 years?
25.
Yeah. And it used to be a big banquet. And my dad would hand out awards for, Superman fans that had volunteered throughout the year, ones that really stepped up during the celebration
they volunteer.
Presentations.
They volunteer and they come here and work.
Ones that did news articles online. So my dad would hand out an award called the George Award. And
nice.
What's the George Award, Dad? What does it represent to you?
Just like you said, it's a person that displays the amount of fortitude that it takes to make a commitment to being part of the celebration, whether it be emceeing this or loading this up, or these chairs need to be moved over here.
Promoting it.
Yeah, and then all the all audio visual, and a lot of equipment comes in here, and a huge tent that will hold 3,000 people. A lot of the events that take place here, they're huge, and we've managed to dodge the rain just about every time that we have the celebration. So I don't know what we do if it rains. People they come to the Superman celebration and it does rain, they just get under a canopy of a building up on Market Street and wait for it to stop raining, and they're back at it again. They don't go home.
Oh, it's Southern Illinois, so if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes.
Exactly. Like, okay, so I'm live in Ohio.
Yeah.
Like we refer to the birth of Superman, because, was it 2 years ago, the Cleveland Museum did a huge thing, the Cleveland Library, called From Cleveland to Krypton. And they had artifacts and everything.
I saw pictures from that, and I really wanted to.
Yeah, I was in Cleveland at the 50th anniversary of Superman. And we did the parade and had the exhibition center there. And we did, 4 days of just crazy.
Before my dad came to Metropolis, he was wanting to do a museum in Cleveland was the goal.
It's crazy that Cleveland hasn't embraced it as much as they should.
Well, you know what? It's so big. It's so big that it's so spread out that it's difficult. It's
they have so many
Metropolis,
things.
Where all of a sudden you say the doors open and they're in. Mm-hmm. Whereas you say that in Cleveland, and they go, well, a little bit of here is at the airport, and there's a little bit of collection here, and there's Superman at the airport, and you got to drive around all day to catch half a dozen sites. And I mean, where you come to Metropolis, it's all here. It's all self-contained.
Yeah, everything's in a 6-mile radius in Metropolis.
Which is, I mean, it's really nice. The Noel Neal statue, the planets.
I promised to her at the Waddles Mansion in Beverly Hills, California, where the stars classic movie stars used to hang out. Clark Gable and Gary Cooper and all of them used to hang out there. And I told Noel Neal at that party, I says, one of these days I'm going to have a statue built for you. And she goes, oh, Jimmy, yeah, I know. Well, when she, after her being here for 10 years and being the first lady of Metropolis and being the favorite celebrity guest. Everybody here in Metropolis fell in love with her. Guess what? There's a statue. She got to see it. She got to go down, and she would come on down every Saturday and take a look at and hang out with the statue of her.
Yeah.
By the town square.
She lived here briefly too. Her and her manager Larry Ward both moved to Metropolis and had intentions on really fixing things up. Larry did a lot of help with the theater building. He purchased it and put a roof on it. And then, that's the Save the Mast Act. It's been going on for a very long time to save the theater. Yeah,
it's so fascinating.
That the whole thing, it's hard to visualize this whole thing. This is phase one of the theme park. We're going to do that. We're working on that.
When we moved here, that was the goal, was to open Superman Land. And you've probably seen, Superman Land laid out by, Neil Adams did a spread in the...
There's a huge comic book called The Amazing World of Superman, and it's all laid out in there.
Mm-hmm. It was...
Westerfield had planned to do, and you might have saw my interview I did. I just posted it recently about the history of Metropolis, the history of our museum. And
I did. I shared it on our social, and I actually had two people who... I mean, as much as I've shared your things before and I've talked about it in the podcast, I actually had two people who didn't know, who were like, "Oh my God, I have to go here," and I was like, "Yes." Yeah. I was like, "All right, awesome,"
Well, we have a lot of goals and dreams for Metropolis, and we will try to look at things the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
You got to dream bigger, build sky castles.
Walt Disney was my hero.
Yeah.
So we don't own the character. We're not claiming any ownership, although there are certain aspects of the character that are public domain and also that Metropolis does own as a city, and so on. And then the chamber has their contract with Warner Brothers, and then they have a celebration, Superman celebration, and so forth. But all in all, when you look at the whole thing and you see the whole thing, you can pick it up. You can look at it and go, "Oh, I get where they're going with this." It's nowhere but up and up and away.
Yeah.
So it's all done pretty good. We've spent many Christmases here and winters, and I hate winter in Metropolis. But
I just hate winter. Period.
We can't handle. Yeah. I mean, we moved here 28 years ago, and it hurts my bones to be cold.
We're not used to all this crazy weather.
My dad was in the military, and we moved up and down the eastern seaboard and southern states, and so I kind of always been around, and I've lived in Ohio, and I'm just like, I hate the winter. I like it here in the fall,
The spring
it holds you
fine.
back a little bit.
I'm okay with being hot.
It keeps you from doing stuff outside. Well, again, we've been fairly fortunate in not having that problem. It's been a threat several times, and we've had a couple of tents twist up on us, little tornadoes here and there. And
an ice storm in 2009. We lost power for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was different. We never experienced anything like that.
They kept saying it's not like that all the time. It's not like that all the time.
So
what? It's raining every day.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be the season in 1993 where it rained every day during that course of that summer, and it was like, you want a piece of Metropolis, or maybe do you want to go home?
So Morgan, how old were you when you moved? Because from what I'm getting,
I was 7.
Okay.
So my dad had 3 daughters at the time.
He started working the counter when he was 7 years old.
My dad had 3 daughters at the time, and my sister stayed in California with my mom, and I watched my dad do interviews at our house, and I listened to him do radio interviews, and I always just sat with him while he was doing stuff like that quietly. I was always a quiet kid when I was little, and I saw his vision, and I thought, this sounds, like the funnest life. That sounds like the coolest thing to do. And I had the choice to stay in California with my mom or come out here with my dad on this adventure. And we drove here from California. It took 3 days. And it's been quite an adventure.
I would say. I mean, you've given something to fandom that nothing else has.
Well, when people come in,
that's what it's about.
We talk with them, we joke with them, we make fun of each other. I like to make sure that they understand when they get out of their car and they're taking pictures with the statue, they're having fun.
Yeah,
that's the key.
Well,
right
you get tourists that come in and they're exhausted from wherever they're driving to, and they come in and
they light up like a Christmas tree.
Well, sometimes they come in and they're a little moody and down, and they come out of that museum and it's like they've been refreshed with nostalgia. And all of a sudden they come out and their eyes are lit up and they're like, I had that toy as a kid and my mom got rid of it. And it's amazing to see it again. I never thought I would see that again.
We get during the summertime, during the peak summertime, we get 1,500 people a day.
We get bus loads.
So it's not like it's a big deal. It's not like your sideshow, roadside Hollywood. I mean, it's a big. We get a lot of people in here.
The town square has people in it all day long during the summertime. It's really different during the winter time. It's like two different worlds, but summer makes it worth it, and we get through the year because we have wonderful summers in Metropolis.
And that's one thing. Like I understand. Okay, so I live in a small town called Circleville. It's just southern of Columbus. And in October, we have something called the Pumpkin Show. One guess, you can figure out what it's about.
Right.
And that is what so many of our local businesses and small businesses budget on. Like that's it. Like Pumpkin Show makes their year, and that's how they survive.
It's the fourth of our revenue.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when I've messaged you a couple times, and like I saw, like when you guys shut down, I know how that can affect a small town. So
for 2 days, I let myself sulk and be depressed about it. And then after that, I tightened my bootstraps.
We learned a whole lot. We learned a whole lot with this whole virus thing. I mean, it's a whole different world. And I mean, the whole world has experienced this. There's nowhere to go.
And
like hiding.
I see you guys doing like the promotions for the shop and selling things on Facebook, which is great. But I'm always at work every time you guys go live, so I never get to like really watch it.
In your opinion, what would be a good time to do some, because I've been talking with Zach Curtis, and a way for us to bring in some revenue would be to do some, auction styles like he does. I'm really impressed with the things he comes up with. He's really doing great. I'm really proud of Zach. He's a good guy, and he gives us advice because we only got 2 days notice that we had to shut down, and this is the time of the year we start spending our money on merchandise for the Superman.
And here we got the mayor running around with clipboard telling us whether we can open our door or not. Weird.
Yeah,
weird.
My wife is a massage therapist, and she's an independent business owner, a small business here. So, luckily for me, because of my job, we still have income. But for her, like that's been a heavy thing on their business.
Well, it's hard when you run your own business and you're self-reliant, and somebody tells you, okay, in 2 days you're going to have to close down until further notice.
It wasn't no specific time. It was until further
we had
notice.
2 days notice.
We didn't know how long or whatever. We're still closed.
Yeah, but me and my husband are very we're very on top of it. You have to be able to adapt.
You got to be versatile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Realize the post office that we could use. We can work it.
So
and all the things that go along with that.
Normally we spend our time talking to customers, and that, you think you're going to get a ton of things done, and then you have some customers come in, and then you spend an hour and a half talking to people or going through the museum with them when it's slow, and then your day is gone, and all the things you wanted to do with your online store and other things you wanted to juggle, you can't get those things done. So with this time, it's we've been able to really focus on things we want to do on the internet. And then I've been able to do some volunteer things that I've been wanting to do with some cleanup around town. I was able to go out to the statue and pressure wash and clean around the statue. And then I thought, maybe I should, my family's painted the statue for 25 years. Maybe I should do a fundraiser to, offset the cost of paint and supplies for the chamber and paint the statue. And so I started that crowdfund, and I did it as I was pressure washing. And by the time I was done pressure washing, it was already up to $600.
I saw that. I shared it. I was at work when I saw it go live. And can you tell me a little bit about your online store? I know because like we talked about just a moment ago with online stuff and the auction stuff, I don't know personally, like maybe if you guys promoted like when you were going to go live or something a little bit so that some people might be able to tune in. Because my thing is like I'm at work in the mornings and then it just pops up and says like Adam or you yourself is live. That way, like, because I would love to be able to watch more.
Yeah, I'm new to all that and adapting. I have been doing a couple. And I knew people would watch it afterwards.
And we already had the brick program where we're selling bricks with your name on them.
Yep, I was going to bring that up. We just you sent me the pictures of our brick when it got up, and I was excited about that, and I shared that.
And that makes a big difference because it means that those bricks are like a part of them. It's a part of anybody who comes and visits that they've got a brick there. They can make a claim to that. The museum, and it's there to remind us, a museum is for everybody. It's not. I'm just a keeper. I don't take a U-Haul to the grave with me. So I'm here to make sure that it gets taken care of in a fair way, and that even after I'm gone, there's remnants of the museum in a big way because nothing gets old.
Well, the goal to set up the nonprofit was to be able to set it up that if something happens to me or my dad, you don't have, a distant relative come in and say, well, let's just sell everything for $1 and I just want to go live off on a beach somewhere, and then everything gets torn apart. This is, my dad's life work, and I want to make sure that it stays together and that it's presentable for the public. And I would like to tie it to a charity at some point, and I'm just kind of looking for...
It'll get there. Right now, we're still in a building progress.
Yeah.
We're there to make it right and to make it fun. And we're going to have a bizarro land where everything works in reverse. Things go up and down rather than backwards and forwards. And hamburgers or hot dogs and hamburger buns.
Can we just not talk bizarro language? Man, that is the hardest thing in a comic book to read.
That's right. So you've got all these things to work with. The characters have already been created, and we're paying homage to these characters by acknowledging their existence and testing people's memory because they get as the years go by, the characters change, and that's what makes Superman always relevant. Is every 8 years or so, they change the Superman character a lot, so that when the push comes to shove, you're looking at the Superman character. He can't change in a phone booth anymore. There are none. So he doesn't change in a cell phone either. But as he's going down or as he's running or jumping up or whatever, he's quick enough to change. So he's evolved. And that's what we look at it and try to take it serious. And so that's the whole thing. You don't just have one legend of Superman. You got the legend of Superman from television of the 50s, from Lois and Clark. You've got, with Smallville. You've got all these different versions. And people can pick their favorite version of the character via, actors, and depending on, who they want.
What's fun about meeting people is figuring out which version they connect to. And then you kind of start understanding them as a person. In our world, because this is our entire world.
Well, okay, so for Jim, I'm going to guess that it's George.
Right. Yeah.
And who would it be for you, Morgan?
It's so funny because it's Max Fleischer Superman.
That's
that
awesome.
was what
Yeah, the
pulled me in
studios-
as a
the studios
child.
that put Popeye out and Betty Boop, that's the Fleischer cartoons.
I
Oh,
just really love the Art Deco style, and when I watched that as a
And the
child,
color just pops out.
and I'm a fan of Batman the Animated Series too,
Mhm.
and so those two went hand in hand so well. And as a child, I made that connection. And then later on in life, I was watching a documentary series about, or maybe I was listening to the commentary, and they were talking about how they pulled their inspiration from the Max Fleischer cartoons.
Well,
and
I
I
mean-
was like, oh my God, it was like an epiphany, like obviously
There are
I
people
knew
to
that
this
as
day
a child.
Just now discovering those cartoons. They won an Oscar in 1941.
The
for art
music
direction.
was so theatrical. The way that Lois was drawn, I just really loved her hair. And,
They had a process called rotoscoping where they would trace images of real life people,
yeah.
and that's how they got
And it
the
was
drawing.
painted on layers of glass. And
We-
so it's just really fascinating how they put those cartoons together. And that was the first thing that I really connected to. After that, I would say Christopher Reeve. And then after Christopher Reeve, I would say Lois and Clark. Because when we moved here from California in 93, while we were setting up the museum, Lois and Clark was on television, and everyone was really excited about that. And it felt like the momentum of building up the museum was building towards something because something great was on
It's a
television,
museum, so you've got to make it relevant to everything going on in the world and the different, you've got different generations. You've got to be able to relate to all of them. Because sooner or later they're going to come across and say, well, how come you don't have da-da-da-da-da? Sometimes I'll do special things like pull out the brown and gray costume or whatever and say,
well, that's like now.
Well, I didn't see this, or I've got this. I didn't see that in there. I said, well, you're only looking at 75,000 items. We got another 75,000 in the closet.
With like Krypton, that only did, 2 seasons?
Sadly, yes.
Sadly. I haven't seen any props or pieces or set pieces or anything come out. And I've even contacted their prop houses and stuff. And, they really outsource from different places for different things. So,
and what she's trying to say is listen to the fans. They'll lead you in the right direction.
Fans. And, you get to know prop designers and builders and all that stuff.
And all of a sudden it's not sticking with the legend. They're looking at Lois and Clark, and they're doing a new Superman called Man of Steel here, and he's got different powers. So since it's like Christopher Reeve. Since when did Christopher Reeve or when did Superman take the S off his chest and throw it at the villains like a frisbee?
Well, yeah, they make up.
Or when did he build it up to make the Great Wall of China and tear it down with the X-ray vision? See, all this stupid stuff, and that's what they had me doing. They had me telling them what Superman could and couldn't do, and that was one of the things that I did for them because. Even Warner Brothers and DC Comics didn't know. They didn't have a record of who was what. And these guys were making stuff up. They were foreigners. The soft guys, they just made stuff up and used it as they went. Figured they'd just get away with anything. Like Superman was some kind of magician or something. It's weird.
Well, the later films did. Yeah, you did get different powers that no one had seen before.
I actually have a poster board around here somewhere that in the move it got moved that I mapped out every live action Superman and what powers there were represented because we're going to discuss those random things like where did this come from, why did this happen, and
there's different parts of each version of Superman I really love.
Original Superman only jumped a quarter of a mile. He didn't fly.
Leap tall buildings in a single bound.
You were talking about the Max Fleischer cartoons. My co-host James, we were just discussing actually starting next month, we're going to go short by short. We're going to start reviewing those and talking about those because those are one of those things like I shared a memory on a podcast I did with a friend that I remember my birthday and I had to be 4, maybe 5, getting the VHS of those cartoons.
Yeah.
And watching
Well, I mean, in the
those,
museum, we were set up. There was a monitor in the museum, and I think that's why I'm really attached to those. And I would sit in the middle of the museum while my dad was setting up.
And I played them because they were public domain. At the time. I mean, they're full blown now.
So I would watch them over and over and
But
over
we
and
can legally
over.
show them without having to ask Warner Brothers permission.
Yeah, and you could play Superman Stamp Day. That's legal or public domain too. And so that was the George
There's a
Reeves
few
thing
things
I
that
watched
slip
a
by.
lot. Yeah.
Put it that way.
And well, when I was 3, my dad used to project the Adventures of Superman on the wall in our living room, and we'd lay down a blanket and eat popcorn and watch those on reels. And so that was one of my favorite memories too. And then whenever Superboy came on, I remember my dad had a beta player, and
Nice.
he would record all the episodes off the TV so we could rewatch them.
I have a Superboy story for you. Superboy, okay, so that's still like, that to me is like the forgotten history of Superman, like the TV show, because there are so many people that didn't know it existed. I remember being in my grandparents' basement and watching the coming on and parts of an episode, and I had certain images burned in my brain. And I remember talking about it, but nobody believed me it was real. And like, and it wasn't till,
and it didn't come out on DVD forever.
I think it was 2006 when when Superman Returns came out, and they released the documentary "Look Up in the Sky: The Amazing Story of Superman," and then the first season of Superboy came out. And I remember getting off work. It was late, and I stopped at Walmart, and they had a huge like middle display, and they had like all like Lois and Clark was on sale. You could buy like everything was on sale to promote Superman Returns, and there was the Superboy season 1, and I was like, I was right. It did exist.
Like with Kirk Allen. Kirk Allen was Superman in 1948 and 1950, but the now generations never even heard it. Because these were the Columbia serials, the cliffhanger. They came out in 48, one in 1950, and they were very successful back then, but nobody remembered them because it was before their time. And so then you had Kirk Allen, who came to visit the museum. He was also Grand Marshal of the Christmas Parade that year, and he was crying over in the corner. And each actor, I have a spot, a category that's laid out for one actor. George Reeves there's a George Reeves section, there's a Kirk Allen section, there's Christopher Reeve section. And I tell you what, he sat there and he says, you've been straight with me all these years, because like I said, I saw him all the time, and he would travel with the museum. But he was very happy, actually, that we made sure he's not going to be the forgotten Superman. And it just meant a lot to him. And once that happened, I knew that there was importance for that for other Superman-related or Superman characters. And so
Kirk Allen was the best man in my parents' wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
they were very close, my dad and him.
I have a picture of Kirk Allen on my Superman wall, and I took a picture in my basement and where I'm sitting of like my Superman stuff. Like, it's nothing compared to what you guys have, but I have a picture of Kirk Allen, and my dad was down here one day, and he was like, "Who is that?" He's like, "Yeah." And I have George, and he's like, "That's the first Superman." I was like, and my dad's 61 now, and I'm like, Dad, no, he was first before George, because my dad remembers George, and he was like, "What?" And I explained it. He was like, "I never knew that," and I'm like, "Yeah, like," and my
favorite thing about Kirk Allen was always that when he would fly, he would turn into a cartoon character. I love that. And then, I was really excited when DC came out with their own streaming platform so that we could watch those things easily, like on your phone or on your laptop.
They released them on VHS and video discs later on.
Yeah. But like recently I rewatched them, and I was just like, I was tickled to death to see the costumes and things because when I rewatched them, what was it? Jor-El's costume? He wasn't called Jor-El back then, was he?
Yeah. You and I had this conversation We had
Yeah, it ended up being the same costume they used on Flash Gordon, right?
Yep.
No, that was the.
It was in the George Reeves series.
Well, used Buster Crabbe's Flash Gordon costume, and they turned it upside down and put a patch on it or whatever, and it became Jor-El's costume. So Buster Crabbe's Flash Gordon costume was worn by the guy that played Jor-El in the TV show Superman with George Reeves.
I decided that watching that, the rocket that Superman comes to Earth in that is my favorite adaptation of the rocket.
Yeah, because that was sci-fi rocket in it.
It was the coolest rocket. Yeah.
What I found interesting is that we're working on an episode where we're talking about we did the review of George's pilot.
Yeah.
And we're about to do the serial, and I just found fascinating how much the beats of the story and the pacing of the first episode of the serial matches the pilot of the Adventures of Superman. Like it was just
the one difference a lot of people don't know is Sarah Kent was his name, his mother's name in with Kirk Allen, and Martha Kent was her name after that later on.
See,
and Martha was also Batman's. His mother was named Martha.
Yeah,
so it gets confusing.
Well, I mean, we talked about how in those it was Eben and not Jonathan Kent.
Eben, yeah.
And I just found that like one of those fascinating tidbits.
Well, you find out new things all the time. And then there's things I find out that I'm like, wow, I'm embarrassed I didn't know that. I just really love talking to other fans because it's a learning
people
experience.
Didn't realize that what was his name? He did the TV or he did the radio shows.
Bud Collyer?
Bud Collyer, yeah. They couldn't find a guy that could sound like him. And he wanted to take a vacation because he'd already worked a straight 2 years, 1,600 episodes, and on radio. And
they couldn't find
anyone. They had to get this guy.
Like
they got this guy to moan and groan like something was wrong with him, and they came up with kryptonite, and that's the reason. So that Bud Collyer could take a vacation and spit Mai Tais in Florida.
See, I remember hearing that they hired someone just to moan and groan because of him wanting a break. It's kind of like the Luther, where like in the comics they flippantly would have OR and ER, and then it took years before they picked one to settled on. It is fascinating. Like I have books. Like I just finished reading the book Superboys.
Okay, yeah.
About Jerry.
They came to Metropolis. Yeah, they got the writers of that.
Because I find their story so fascinating and interesting and powerful. And
I love.
Well, you're talking about the top 10 worst business decisions in American history.
I mean, yeah.
I love learning about superheroes and religious theology. I think that's really fascinating too. Yeah,
it is. I had a book, and I think an ex of mine took it. Was about it was Christ's parables of the Bible and like the story of Superman. And
we had a guy that came into the museum.
The Gospel according to Superman.
Yeah, we had a guy that came into the museum. And he taught a class, I believe in Connecticut. He said that he taught a class on superheroes and religion because
we were getting followed around for years. People coming to see the Christopher Reeves display, and with the Christus, because the story of Superman was taken from the Book of Moses, and people don't realize that either.
No, they don't, and that's what I find so fascinating is how he started out as a more based off Moses, and somehow they've morphed him into like this Christ-like figure.
Right.
For an example, my wife, we were playing a game today, and she, I tagged her in that thing on Facebook, like, every day you put one of your favorite movies up, and she was trying to give me hints of what her favorite movie was, and she's like, fine, and she goes, this movie has 2 actors who went on to play Christ-like figures, and I was like, oh, the Count of Monte Cristo, and she's like, yes. Because Jim Caviezel and Henry Cavill are both in that. And I laugh because that's the clue that she gave me to realize her favorite movie. Is there any piece of like Superman history or something that you want for the museum that you don't have?
I pretty much nabbed everything on the way out.
What about the captain's hat?
Captain's
You always
hat.
talk about that.
The what?
The hat.
What hat?
What is it? It was who had it? Cameron had that hat.
Oh, I don't know. That was the beanie. That wasn't a plastic hat. That was a beanie. He had a propeller on the top of it, and it was for collecting buttons.
Huh. I thought it was a cat, like a.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. There's things. Sometimes he'll see something that he's never seen before. He gets really excited, especially with the older stuff.
That's what was fascinating about that exhibit at the Cleveland Library was a lot of it was from a private collector that had donated.
Oh, was that the Western Reserve Historical Society? Is that the one you're talking about?
I'd have to double check. I'd have to look it up.
6 weeks at the Western Reserve Historical Society in Cleveland. I had an exhibit there for a long time.
My dad had things on loan to the Smithsonian too.
I believe that. Like that.
And they ended up in the Smithsonian book. He ended up on the cover of the Smithsonian book, or was that
Smithsonian Magazine did a cover article on it.
Hey,
my dad put in the National Enquirer, and
the only time they ever let the collector put his name and address and phone number on the National Enquirer so that you would be able to get in touch with me to buy, sell, and trade Superman.
Yeah.
I was excited when I saw your ad.
Zach Curtis just posted something, or he sent me a message. He said that he just purchased a collection, and there's a bunch of stuff that came from my dad, and he found an ad for something my dad was doing called Superman Supermarket, and he was putting this ad in different magazines, and
that's all we had.
Yeah. So, like, Wizard magazine and stuff like that, you used to have to put ads before the internet.
Trade papers, toy papers.
Yeah.
Convention.
And so it really is fun to see different things that, you don't think about an ad you're putting out like that's someday going to be a collectible.
Well,
That's
I've got on the cover
funny.
of Collector's Magazine now. They end up paying $20 for an autograph on that book on the cover.
Yeah. Well, you can't find that anywhere else.
The magazine itself is worth that by itself.
I got excited when I saw your ad run on the gas station TV. And I had to video it.
That was so much fun.
Pumpcast News.
Yeah.
You know what?
That was crazy. I had my brother call me from the desert in California saying, I'm over here pumping gas and I see your ugly face.
Yeah, I was pumping gas that morning. I whipped out my phone and I started recording part of it and I sent it to you. I was like, I just saw your ad on the gas pump. I was sitting there at the pump because the gas station's it's.
Yeah, I coordinated all of that. I didn't know it would be such a big deal.
They came to us.
I had people calling from all over the country. Hey, I just saw you on this gas station pump.
They gave us no charge. It was free.
Yeah.
They felt that we were the one of the businesses that would definitely get the attention and showcase to people.
But they were only supposed to play it in our tri-state area. It wasn't supposed to be nationwide. I asked them where they were going to play it, and they were like Missouri, Tennessee, Illinois, Kentucky. And it wasn't supposed to be like a nationwide thing. So when it hit nationwide, we were shocked, that it was that cool of it was only 20 seconds or something. But yeah.
I mean,
we've been on all kinds of television shows, but for some reason you get a commercial on the gas pump, and people come out of the woodwork and go, "You guys made it! You made it!"
Well, I mean, a TV station, maybe I don't watch that channel or I didn't see it, but we all got to pump gas.
The second thing was Travel Channel did a really awesome segment about us, and they kept replaying it. And every time they would replay it, we'd get an influx of people, and it was wonderful. And then Sci-Fi came for the Superman celebration. And during Krypton, one morning I was getting ready for work. I stayed up late, so I was going into work late. So I was getting dressed and I was watching Sci-Fi, And then I hear my dad's voice, and I thought, is my dad at the house? What's going on? And, they were playing an ad for the museum for free from Sci-Fi. They just liked the museum so much that, they used it as filler between episodes of Krypton. That was great.
You were talking about that. The sense is like, even going back to the brick project, is, by buying those bricks and being part of it, we're supporting and helping the museum, but it makes back to that community. Now we're part of it. We're part of the museum. Like, when I go and I get to come back, there's my name and my kids right there there.
Well, and it's a moment in time. Like, say you only have one kid and you do a family brick with everybody's name on it, and then you come back 20 years later and you realize, we only had Johnny on this brick. We need to add another brick and celebrate our family trip to Metropolis in 2020. Each time you come back, you can do that. We want to do different ones, like, people pick quotes that different Superman actors said and put those on there. We want to make this a project that it can be inspiring, and people can spend half an hour just reading bricks and looking for fun ones.
Had a lot of quotes and things like that when he was down in a wheelchair, and I think there'd be a lot of interesting things that could go on walls from Christopher Reeve's philosophical points of view.
He really had, I sometimes whenever I'm having a down day, I'll look up, Christopher Reeve quotes, and they really hit home all the time. He was really inspired.
He had enough time to sit there and think about it.
Yeah,
he did. Is there any, and I meant that all to say, like, there is a sense of community to what you're doing, and that's why I think that people want to, like, celebrate you. They want to, like, talk about you. They want to promote, because there's just something good, and much like the character itself, that's
it's like pulling the good out of a compromising situation. It's like the virus. We're going to figure out a way to make it a plus.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah,
that's who we are, and this is the
because we have this character to look to. Well, what would he do if this happened? What would Superman do? He would start trying to help people. You see a small business struggling, you can go talk to them. A friend is having a hard time being alone in their home. And you call them and talk to them.
One of the things on the statue is a book open that tells everybody that comes to visit that, look, we don't worship the character, but we like what he stands for.
I understand. I've had that argument with my mom before. Yeah, we won't go into that right now. We have a whole bunch of ongoing jokes, my wife and I do. Is there any guest that you would like to have that you don't have? No.
I would love to have Neil Adams come, because his artwork is all over town. I mean, in a dream scenario, Terrence Stamp would be another great guest to have. I think the fans would go bananas for Terrence Stamp. Henry Cavill. That would be great.
Yeah, he ain't been here yet.
I think he's in that. Give it some time.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Yeah.
Well, they all of them go out and retire and say, that'd be the last thing they do. Yeah.
Well, we thought this year was for sure going to be the year that Tom Welling came, because he's been doing a lot of conventions around the country. They
all end up coming because
Michael Rosenbaum has been here, and him and Tom they do those Smallville nights, and we thought, gosh, if they could book them and we could do the Smallville nights in Metropolis, that would be an amazing experience for all the fans.
I just had, back in October, I got to meet my family. We have our picture with Tom, Michael, and Laura from Smallville.
Yeah.
And my wife's basically, we have every year she tries to get me to meet a Superman actor. And this year was going to be Tyler, my name Tyler, his name Tyler. Yay. And then that fell through. So we're hoping that before the year's up, I'll get to find a convention to meet another one, because 2 years ago I got to meet Dean Cain.
he got to come in the museum. We had a really special experience.
Yeah, I had
because normally they
I
keep
had his
them.
first pair of boots that he wore as Superman that laced up. And he says, well, how did you get this? I only had one.
They normally keep the celebrity guests so busy that they don't even get to visit the museum. It's like, the Saturday, it's one day they work them all day. They're doing autographs. They go do the statue picture. They do the Q&A, go do more autographs. But for when Dean Cain came in, we had Sci-Fi in there, and he finally got to come in and see everything. And he was blown away, and he said, they didn't let me keep any of this. He said, I tried to take a tie home. I tried to take jackets.
And here I am sitting there with a dozen ties.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, that's your shirt over there.
Yeah. And you could tell, like, how genuine he was, that he lit up seeing all that stuff again. He was like, oh, there's the wedding dress. He was excited to see all that.
I have a picture that I found of Dean Cain that's really like, I'll take a picture and send it to you. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about it. My wife found it for me, and I was telling Dean about when I met him, and he was like, oh, I remember exactly that day, because it's like it's all white and it's draped, and it's like they shot him upside down just testing something. And he was telling me, he was like, I remember doing that. And it was just so cool because it's just such an odd photo I found.
Was it a flight test?
I'll take a picture of it and I'll send it to you.
It was to keep his cape out of the way, and it would just kind of hang, and then they had a wind machine blowing the cape, so it was free to flutter. And that's how they did it. Out of Hollywood, too, which is a 40,000 square foot museum that we're working on right now, too.
We'll do another interview about that.
I was sad when I came. Because I came in February, and when I came in, my birthday's in February, and that it wasn't open, and I vowed to come back and
What's
to
your
that.
Birthday?
It's February 12th.
Oh, okay. Mine's the 5th.
That's my parents' wedding anniversary and my aunt's birthday.
Oh, awesome! Cool.
So I have a whole.
Then you'll remember my birthday.
I will remember your birthday. My grandma, my dad's mom, is the 16th, and my mom's the 18th of February.
My sister's the 21st. Yeah, we have a lot of birthdays in that time of the year for my family.
It's just my family. What's funny is most of it's like September and February.
Yeah.
So what I just kind of want to wrap up a little bit here, and I'd like to just talk a little bit about your online store for me, and talk about the fallback to Metropolis, and if people want to support and help out, in this time where you guys are kind of suffering a little bit because.
Okay, yeah, I'll go into that. Okay, so our website, you can buy anything from our physical location online.
All those who want to see us squirm during these tough times.
Our website is supermanstuff.com, and everything that's in our gift shop is online. And if there's something that you've visited our gift shop and you don't see online, just shoot me a message either through Facebook, or you can call our phone number. It's 618-524-5518. My email address is supermanmuseum@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me really easily. I always have my phone on me. I do a lot of the social networking. And then also, if you want to support us through our brick program, that's supermuseumbrickprogram.com. And you can buy a brick, and it usually takes a couple months to turn around and get in the sidewalk. And those start out at $100, and you can buy a mini brick, or you can get a certificate. You can get different sizes of brick. They go from $100 to $600. And you can do logos. Say you have a podcast and you have an official logo. You can get your logo put on a brick. They do custom engravings. And I just did a really fun one because I do graphic design work too. And I did a fun one for Nashville's Dark Knight. He's a really good friend of mine, a really sweet guy, Adam Prince. And I did a logo brick, and it turned out fantastic. It's a bat symbol, and it says Nashville's Dark Knight on it. And that was fun. And then I'm talking to Sam Rizzo about doing a Superboy Legacy brick, because that's what he's going by on, social media, and his new website he's building up for Superboy.
Yeah, we're really excited about his Superboy website and talking more Superboy with him, because, like I said, like that's still kind of more I'm discovering, because it was always like the lost Superman like error.
He's so enthusiastic, and he's so positive, and his energy is always good and uplifting. I really love talking to Sam. He's a great guy.
Well, it was good talking to you.
Well, thank you. It was good talking to you guys. I have wanted to do this for a while, but it's just, you're busy, life, and I just really wanted to kind of anything I can do to help out. And do you guys have the date for Fallback to Metropolis yet set?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be October 2nd through the 4th. Was going to get on my computer and put a announcement together, but we have Jerry Lawler coming for Fallback to Metropolis as a guest. Okay. He's our first official guest, and Tim Gardner's going to be helping put together
Jerry's
like a mini con for that.
Yeah.
And then also I did say that Zach Curtis is doing the Facebook auctions and things like that. Zach Curtis is going to be coming into town and doing a live auction where you can bid in person or you can bid through Facebook. I'm not really sure about how that's all set up, but he's preparing himself and learning how to do that right now as he's been doing his Facebook Live auctions. And then the Rinaldis want to do Superman Jeopardy during our event. It'll probably be a smaller version because everybody that comes for the Superman celebration really just loves to get together. Mm-hmm. And it really is a family, and they love to talk, and they love to play games and go out to eat together. And Fallback is more of a relaxicon. It doesn't have events planned the entire day, so you have some time to go see the town and see some of the history of Metropolis, Illinois, too, while you're here.
See, my family and I were talking about we want to come because usually we throw like a big like family Halloween party. And last year, like we went all out. We spent a bunch of money on decorations, and we were going to do it. And then like nobody came. They all just kind of bailed. And then the few that did, they weren't here very long. And my wife and I were like, next year let's take a trip.
Yeah.
And like get away. And then because of Celebration being canceled, we decided, hey, you know what? Let's just kind of combine the two and head down. So that's we are planning to come down for that, and we're excited.
So what's fun about Metropolis is, we have Fort Massac State Park, and so we were talking about Lois and Clark. Well, Lewis and Clark came through Fort Massac State, or our Fort Massac in town, and so there's a cartoon. It's a comic strip, and it was Superman running into Lewis and Clark, and I always share that during the week of the encampment for Metropolis.
That's
because
cool.
It's kind of funny that we have that tie there. And then another interesting fact about Metropolis that maybe people don't know is that the Birdman of Alcatraz is buried in Metropolis.
Oh.
And the guy from The Longest Day that hung from the church steeple after he parachuted out, he's from here too.
And then we also have the longest
largest single-span train trestle in the world.
Yeah.
Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to see.
Yeah, if you look out, if you go to the Harrah's parking lot and look out, you can see the train bridge. And then we have a Hope Lighthouse, which is it's representative of like hope for cancer survival. And I don't think they knew at the time when they were putting that together that, Superman stands for hope. We have a Hope Lighthouse. And so that's what we really want to play on with Metropolis is hope
Mhm.
and positivity.
Yeah, I just recently reread Birthright, and of course that's where Mark Waid, talks about it being hope.
Mark's been here.
Yeah.
I figured he has. Like, if any writer has, like, I figured he would have been. I've interviewed him before. He's an awesome guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay, so just the last thing here, just because I'm going to edit this up, can you real clearly just both introduce yourselves for me?
Sure.
It's just been a long day. My daughter decided to wake up at 6:30, and she's been like in a funk today, and she's 3, but she thinks she's 16.
I have one of those. I have 3 daughters.
So
One's 12, 8, and 4.
my son is 5 and my daughter is 3, and they are something.
It's crazy when they outnumber you. You don't have enough hands to grab everybody, and you're constantly just trying to stop fights between somebody.
So they wore me down. That's why, like, I was sitting there on the couch, and you messaged me, and I was like, "Is it too late for you?" I'm like, "Cause I'm still good." I'm just like, I looked at my wife like, "I'm gonna go do this." She's like, "Go for it." I'm like, "Yes." Especially when you said your dad was going to join us, I got really excited.
Yeah.
Focus more, like, my biggest thing is the George Reeves, Kirk Allen era, because that's the forgotten era that a lot of people are losing.
That's where my dad is most knowledgeable, because that's the stuff he really got into whenever he started collecting. And then he did a lot of stuff with I'm sure you've heard of John Field and Chuck Harder, and a lot of books were worked together, and my dad's assisted on dozens of books. And then he's credited in the movie Hollywood's Kryptonite, right? Is that what it's called with Ben Affleck?
Hollywoodland.
Hollywoodland, sorry.
If you look at Hollywoodland, I got credits on the fades to black at the end of it.
Uh-huh.
I got full credits for the museum and myself on there. Next time you take a look.
I will. I have that around here.
Okay, yeah, just pay it to the end, and then you'll see.
I haven't watched it in several years. I need to rewatch it. It's fun to see that Ben Affleck has now been Batman, Superman, Daredevil, and Phantoms.
What I thought was funny is you were talking about the serials. Like, I have the Batman serials that I found on DVD for $5. Like, but the Kirk Allen serials were so hard to track down.
I've never watched the Batman ones.
They're good.
And what's fun is, I never watched the old Captain Marvel stuff, and I really want to watch that too. But there's so much to watch now. There's so many superhero TV shows.
And that's like why I love the DC universe, because like you were saying, like, I can watch it when I'm at work on my phone, and I've been slowly rewatching George's.
It's fun because if you're doing computer work, then you just kind of listen. You don't have to watch the whole thing, and if it is fascinating enough, then you go home and rewatch the episode, or I like documentaries about comics.
I do too. So I'm taking an online class on documentary video editing, and and I had to watch one and talk about like subject matter. So I rewatched, because I hadn't watched it like in 2 years. I watch at least once a year, the Superman documentary, and I had it with my wife, and we watched it, and she even said, like,
Up and Away, or
the amazing story of Superman.
What's crazy is we had that for a really long time, and I had never really like watched it with full attention. And then it came on one time on HBO when I was feeding my oldest daughter, and I couldn't find the remote. And then I watched the whole thing, and I was like, wow, you know what? This is the best documentary in the world about Superman. Like, I really love it.
It's a great documentary, period. Like, that's what my wife was saying.
I started buying them wholesale, and now we sell them out of the gift shop, and it's one of our number one sellers in the gift shop, that documentary now.
I love
tell everyone, because people come in and they go, I don't think my grandkids know who Superman is. And I go, well, we have this, and it'll tell the whole story. Well, I think it needs to be updated from 2006 on, though.
It does.
I wish they would do an updated version. Because there's been, let's see, Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Justice League. There's been
Supergirl TV series, the Superman upcoming TV series.
Action Comics 1000.
You have the New 52.
Yeah.
Smallville ended. You know, after that was done. And then you've had, I mean, just in the comics completely, you know.
Krypton, Supergirl, the crossover, there's a lot to cover.
And I just, you know, I feel like it is a great documentary, and there, like you said, there is so much more, and it's still going, like, you know, changes with the character. And
what was another one? Robert Kirkman.
Oh yeah.
Comic?
The comic.
Did you watch that?
I didn't watch, but I bought the Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster episode.
Oh, okay. The whole thing is fabulous. I really love that.
I loved that series, and I don't ever watch a lot of live TV just because I'm usually busy, and a lot of stuff I just watch when I can. But that was a great, here it is, Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics, and I bought the Trial of Superman episode, and I watched that with my wife because I was just telling her, like, just everything that they went through.
Well, people don't really. And then, Drunk History, the episode about Superman versus the Nazi, or not the Nazis, the KKK. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen. History version of that.
Did you ever watch I have not watched that. I
gotta see that. It's really good.
Did you ever watch the was it Batman and Me on Hulu? The story about Bill Finger?
I haven't. I did hear about that though.
That is that's another really great documentary to check out. You should check that one out. I mean, I know we're talking Batman here, but you know, he's still cool. He's okay, you know.
I mean, growing up to be a rebel, I told my dad that Batman was my favorite. And now my 4-year-old does that to him. You know what? Batman's better than Superman. She comes in to the living room and he's watching TV, and she'll come up to him and just say that to him.
See, my son, he used to say it, but now he's come around. He'll be like, I like Superboy. But my son has a love for Doomsday. Like, that's why, like, he really can't wait to.
That I meet that really love Doomsday.
I showed him a picture of the Doomsday statue you guys had, and he's like, I want to see that so bad, Daddy. And it's hilarious. I'm like, son, you kind of scare me how much you love Doomsday.
That's happened a couple times. I've had a couple little boys that have really gone bananas over Doomsday.
Oh,
and they'll go. You tell them in the gift shop, because they'll be like, "Do you have any Doomsday action figures?" Or like, "Well, not. We don't have any for sale because they don't make a lot." Or we'll have one, and it'll be the high end one.
Yeah.
And you can't play with that. And then I'll go, but if you want to go in the museum really quick, I'll sneak you in, and you can go to see the 12-foot Doomsday statue. And then they'll go, "You have a Doomsday statue?" And they get really excited.
It's fascinating how much, and that's another thing.
And I've seen a little girl dressed as Supergirl, like, jump up and down and get really excited about Doomsday. So I don't know. Some kids really love villains.
Well, my daughter, she's coming around to where, like, she'll talk about Supergirl, but like her birthday was Harley Quinn themed. She loves Harley Quinn.
Well, my favorite version of Harley Quinn is definitely Batman, the animated series.
Oh yeah,
where she came to be. That's Suicide Squad and all that. That's not my Harley Quinn. I want to see her in the jumpsuit and all that stuff.
That's why I'm gonna have hopes for the Suicide Squad. But so I've shown my daughter the cartoons and stuff before, but she was 2 and she's 3 now, and so a week or so ago we watched the episode of the retitled Batman Adventures. It's the one with Supergirl, Batgirl, Ivy, Harley, and Livewire.
The superhero girls.
And it's the one from the old series from '97.
Oh, okay.
When they changed the animation style,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And she sat down, and I showed it to her before, but she sat down and did not move and watched it with such childlike glee, seeing Harley and seeing Supergirl and Batgirl. And it was just one of those things like, oh, you've watched this before, but like she never really paid attention. And she was
Yeah.
just
With
so
what we do,
thrilled.
it's like, kids always rebel and they never want to do like whatever their parents do. So sometimes you find something that gets them hooked. Like I like to watch Teen Titans Go with my kids, and then they get attached to the characters through that. And then I try to like, okay, well, I took all the Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. I put them all in our car, and we went on a road trip, and they watched all of the Superman movies, and then they rewatched them, and now they really love Superman the movie and Superman 2 and everything.
My kids just rewatched the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans movie because I get such a kick out of have you seen it?
I haven't seen that.
Okay, I don't want to spoil it then, because the ending is so hilarious, and my kids just got such a kick out of it. But even you're talking about updated stuff. I was just sitting there thinking, Titans, the TV series, has a new version of Superboy. They did the new Death of Superman animated film, which I love. That is actually my favorite.
They're going to be. Well, I don't know. I got contacted by DC Warner, and they're using the picture I took of John Bogdanov in front of the Doomsday statue. They said, hey, we found this picture on your social media, and we're doing a documentary about the death of Superman and Doomsday, and we want to use your picture. And I don't know if it was ever released or anything. But yeah, it's the first time I had ever had, for me, Morgan, had DC reach out to me to use something that I did in part of their documentary. I was so excited about that.
That is exciting. That is very awesome. Because
I watch a lot of different stuff, and the stuff on DC Universe. I was watching their little show they have on there, and it's like, God, I don't know who to contact to reach out and get on that show and bring some costumes and kind of talk about the museum with them, because I really want to be included. And I've always been kind of shy and behind the scenes, and I'm trying to push myself out there, and doing stuff like that or something with Kevin Smith would be amazing.
Has Kevin Smith ever been to Metropolis?
I was told he came in like 94, and he wasn't really famous, like that famous back then. And so,
he might be someone you could reach out to come one year, just because he's directed episodes of Supergirl.
Well, I went to one of his live podcasts in St. Louis and went behind the building and got him to sign our copy of Superman Live, the script. And I told him come to Metropolis. I gave him a T-shirt and stuff. But yeah, I think he just meets a lot of fans. But I would beg him to come for the celebration because he's tied to so many projects. And he's probably going to end up taking Stan Lee's place in the convention circuit when he gets older.
Yeah.
As far as being one of those beloved fandom icons. He's getting there.
Have you watched the Death of Superman Lives What Happened documentary?
Yeah, I'm good friends with Holly Payne, the producer of that.
Yeah.
And when I went out to LA, I went and spent some time with her at her house. And John Snipe, the director and the guy in that documentary, sadly, him and Holly were together for like 17 years, and he had a stroke suddenly.
I met him, I think it was 2 weeks before he died. I met him. He was here in Columbus for WizardCon, and I walked up to him and I talked to him, and I could just tell that he just seemed off, that something was wrong. And I want to say it was either a week to 2 weeks after I met him is when he passed.
I think he was just a workaholic. A lot of stress.
He seemed like a really cool guy from everything I seen, you know. And then, like I said, when I met him,
He was a really cool guy. Him and her came through the museum, and actually, I'm the reason they came for the celebration. I suggested them, and the chamber reached out to them, and I was like, "I'm the reason you came because I've been wanting to see anything on, Superman Lives my entire life. It was like that project. We thought something was going to happen, and then nothing happened." And it was really upsetting, and it was a great mystery why. And I was like, I've watched your documentary like 6 times already. And he's like, wow. Like I was crazy because I really fangirled out on him. And then he went through the museum with me, and then he fanboyed out in the museum, and then we connected on social media, and I've stayed in contact with Holly ever since all of that. And then she gave me one John Schneip pin for the museum, the silhouette of his head.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Smith was wearing that during a podcast thing. And then she gave me a big cutout of his head. And, Holly's been having a hard time with that. So sometimes I take pictures of John's head, like at the cutouts and different stuff like that, and send it to Holly. I really love that girl. She's awesome. That's really
cool. Like, that you have that connection and stay in touch with her. It's a great documentary. And I remember when I first saw the trailer for it, I was over the hills excited about it. And now I
tried to, I didn't have a big social media following when that came out. We only had like 2,000 followers on our Facebook, but I shared it and shared it and shared it and shared it because I was so excited about it. And then the footage they got and the interviews they got, like that's unheard of that you would get an interview with
Tim Burton.
And then what's his name? John
Peters. Yeah.
John
with Tim Burton.
The only one that kind of shook me was Nicolas Cage wasn't on there, and he's always seemed like he would be up to talk about.
He had contractual ties with a movie or project he was doing, but then Holly went to like a big Q&A, or John and Holly went to a big Q&A, and someone asked Nick Cage about Superman Lives and kind of what happened with that. And Nicolas Cage goes, well, have you seen the documentary, The Death of Superman Lives? And gave him a big shout out. And then, like, I saw someone else was filming from far away, and John and Holly both stood up and went, yes, or something like that, because, it was really exciting that he shouted out their documentary,
The next one that I'm interested in is they're starting one about the George Miller Justice League Mortal. There's a guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I've seen him post stuff where he's gathering interviews and pictures and making a documentary about that failed Justice League movie that would have been out in 2007. So
wow,
that's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye out for. But
yeah, it'll be on the next.
It would have been cool to see, Henry Cavill do another Man of Steel movie. I hope. I don't know.
He did.
I'm not real crazy. I'm not going, I need the Snyder cut. I'm not real crazy about it. I don't think it would, I'm not that type of person.
I would just enjoy to see, because there's so
I'd
much
like to see it, but I'm not going to get mad if I don't.
Like, I watched Zack Snyder did a live Q&A, or not, a live commentary for BVS on his social media, and that was cool to watch him talk about it and everything. But I think Henry deserves at least another round at the character. And I mean, I loved Brandon Routh in the crossover as, Superman, and seeing him again, and that was amazing as well.
I didn't have any major complaints about Justice League being kind of fun, though, because honestly, I really think they need to return to making these movies for kids. I think that's where Marvel is really doing a good job, is they're considering that children are watching the films. And then DC is kind of going in the direction of, well, we need to please the fans. And then they're forgetting that, the fans are little kids, and what you're tying to making these movies is connecting with children and establishing like a ground floor for that kid of the standard of what superheroes are going to mean to that generation of children that the movie's released in. So like people that grew up with Superman the movie, they have this bond with that movie and are very tied to that movie. And I have favorite movies, Goonies and Hook and stuff like that, and I'm just really tied.
Well, I agree with you because I got in an argument with somebody online because I said, I had hoped that when they did the Stargirl TV series, they would kind of do it as a family-based TV series because everything that DC Universe is doing, that they're creating themselves, is all adult content.
Well, I wish they would just bring back primary colors. It's like I want to hold up a sign, bring back primary colors, because everything is so dark burgundy and dark navy blue, and
I always thought like if I was going to shoot a Superman like movie or TV series, what I would purposely do would be to desaturate the colors of everyone else and enhance his colors because he's supposed to pop. He's supposed to stand out, and the idea of showing a darker world where this bright image kind of shines through it.
If I could do a TV series on Superman, I would base it on like all the crazy storylines from Silver Age comic books.
Well, I had the conversation I was recording for a Smallville podcast the other day of how much stuff in Smallville is like feels very Silver Age, just how crazy some of it got. It could have gotten crazier, but still, like just some of it, you're just like, this is really out there.
Well, I loved all the Meteor Freak episodes and stuff like that.
But I'm completely behind you. Like DC, like you said, you watch Teen Titans Go with your kids. The only thing they have right now for kids is what Teen Titans Go and DC Superhero Girls.
Yeah.
And every other content that they create and put out is for adults. And like my kids want, like my daughter saw the Harley Quinn cartoon image. I was like, oh, a Harley Quinn cartoon. And I'm trying to explain to her, you can't watch that.
Yeah.
And I have tons of, before, DC Universe, like I have a bunch of everything on DVD that I show them and we watch and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, I want my kids to have this love for these characters like I do.
Well, their own version of it.
Exactly.
That's like what's, Crypto Superdog. It was short-lived, but whenever that was on the air, the toys were really hot. And now some of those toys are really valuable because they did small toy lines and it didn't last too long. And people really loved Crypto and all the animals. They should maybe do a show just about all the animals.
There was a movie in the works.
My Little Pony,
There's a movie in the works at Warner Brothers Animation. I think it was slated for next year, but it's kind of been, who knows now, that was supposed to be like the super animals. It was going to be Ace the Bat Hound, was Crypto the super dog and stuff.
I'd love to see Comet and Bippo and what's the other one? What's all the super animals, Dad? Yeah, Streaky.
The horse,
Comet. Because those are the toys that really kids really love.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, like you said earlier about like my son was in love with Doomsday. I wanted a Doomsday toy, and everything's so high end collector's toys for that. Luckily, I found the Fisher Price Imaginext line.
Oh yeah.
Doomsday. I found that for him, and I got him that, and
I think they could have made that Doomsday a lot cuter.
Yeah,
they should do a Doomsday plush.
They should. I mean, my son also loves Bane, and you know how hard it is to find a good Bane figure that he can actually play with. It's not like
I love Bane. He's always been one of my favorite characters.
My kid always picks the obscure characters. Like he's now on a big Killer Croc kick. I'm just like, man, son, you can't pick the ones that are easy for me to find.
Yeah, and you don't want to take out of the package because the toys end up being rare.
Yeah, I found him the Killer Croc, the small, I think 4-inch figure for the new toy line they just launched, and I got that for him, and he was excited. But
Then he'd really love the Americana because so we have a secondary museum, the Americana Hollywood, and we only open it for special events. And we have a Justice League room there, and we have all the Imagine X play sets over there. And then we have, because my dad collects Superman, he's a completist, and he likes to collect the entire toy line of a figure. So instead of just buying the Superman for years, he's just been getting the entire toy line. And so at the Americana, it really showcases, not just Superman, but the entire Justice League. And
wow.
we haven't really kept that place open consistently because it's such a massive museum. It's 40,000 square feet. And it's just too much to keep all the lights on in the off season. But it'd be fun to get it going and get like miniature golf and stuff.
Yeah.
But we should have that place open for fallback is the goal. I have to do a couple of roof repairs, but he'll love that place if he likes Imagine X and all that.
Oh, they do. They both do. I mean, was that huge bat bot that came out recently? I found a lady was selling one on Facebook because I could never find it in stores, and I got it for him, and he loves it. Well, it was great talking with you. I felt like we could just keep chatting, but you got a life, and my wife's probably wondering if I'm ever coming back upstairs.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
And that's it for this part. Like I said, we had to edit some things down because we kept going for a while. And I hope you really enjoyed the conversation because I know I did. I really love talking with them, and I really look forward to more conversations. Jim, in the podcast, offered a chance to call back, and we're going to talk maybe here again soon and focus more on the Kirk Allen, George Reeves time because it would be really awesome to just talk about that almost forgotten era of Superman. And once again, in the links and the notes to the episode, you'll find all the links to the things that Morgan was talking about. So please get online, support the museum, and if you can't make it out there, do what you can. It's an awesome place, and we're all struggling in these hard times. And remember,
Look up in the sky.
Look up in the sky.
Look in the sky.